Hello, everyone. Let's receive 3 breaths together. Just close your eyes and inhale. Open your mouth and with a sound, and 2 more times. Inhale. Ah. One last time. Inhale. Ah. There is something quite magical about just breathing together, just aligning our breaths, the moments to slow down, to connect with yourself and to connect with others. There is something quite hard to explain, something that happens when we just take the moment to just be together. We're so busy doing, and it's a moment of the power of being with yourself is amazing, but being with yourself with others is incredible. And there is something, yeah, to the level of magic about coming together. And maybe that's where I want to start with. I was asked this morning a question by one of my graduates who said, "Hey, Alex, I saw a study. I'm not going to go into the details because it was about ice baths. What do you think about this study?" And something is changing. And I find that so many people are very much attached to the science of stuff. They want to understand. And Claire, you were sharing about, Patrick, and I feel that unfortunately the problem is science is limited. And we get frustrated because we want to understand. We think, oh, well, I'll be okay once I understand everything. So let me study in detail. And then once my brain will be happy, then I'll be happy. And then the brain is happy and you're still not happy. So that's the limit of the science of stuff. And what I love about the breath is that it's kind of a gateway to the realm of the magic. So in this webinar, I want to share some elements of where this magic come from. So I'll share the science, so the brains will be happy. And then I'll share about things that maybe are not completely related to the science. And I love this sentence is once you feel it, you believe it. And there is something about experiencing something that the brain doesn't make any sense of it. And yet it's an experience. And what do I do with that? So yeah, that's a little bit of the framework for what we're going to do today. So before I dive into the science of the breath and I get technical, I always say that for me, and that makes my approach and my trainings quite different from everyone else. For me, the breath is not the most important, and the breath work itself is not so important. If people enter the breath work ready, then magic happens. So for me, it's very much about what do we do before breath work and what do we do after breath work. I always say breath work starts when we stop the breathwork session. That's when the magic really happens, when we connect together, when we stop chasing, when we just pose. And, the same way, Shavasana is the most important pose in yoga. When you stop doing all those crazy postures and then you lay down, that's where this period of integration, that's where the magic really happens. And Claire, you were mentioning training runners. I would say the most important in any kind of practice is the integration after. And that's something that is not spoken about enough. It's all about the running technique, the breathing technique. I have no clue about running. I'm guessing here. But I don't, I'm sure there is not much about, okay, not only the recovery, but just the integration of it. And I find that, and I will explain the science behind it, this is the secret of happiness. Happiness is a production of hormones. And when we are creating the space to integrate our experiences, then we produce those hormones. A little bit to give you just a hint. When you have a deadline, you have an exam, or you lose your wallet or your passport, and you find it, or you end the exam and you finish the achievement, the assignment, you're very happy. So if we haven't experienced stress, and something called de-stress, something not cool, not nice, I lose my wallet, then we don't have the stress, the positive stress that comes after the rebound. So dysphoria is a precursor for euphoria. If I don't stress myself, I don't enjoy. And, Claire would know the runner's high, or if you climb a mountain, how you feel after you when you come down from the mountain. And we can really do that all the time, every time we stress ourselves to just have a rebound and feel it. And that's what I love about breath work, because it is stressful. It is over breathing. It is something that is putting pressure on the system. But the bliss that we feel after is second to none. Actually, they've done studies where they measure heart rate, and they've measured the heart rate of someone doing meditation for 1 hour with someone doing breath work for 1 hour. And the person doing breath work had a lower heart rate having breathed for 1 hour than the person who was just meditating for 1 hour. So we get into a really deep state of relaxation after we breathe in a very active way. So before I dive in, a little bit of self-promotion. My name is Alex. I run BreathingCold online facilitator trainings in person. I've had 7,000 people in my workshops, 500 people in my teacher trainings. And if anything you hear or you watch is of interest to you, reach out. I have online courses, self-paced, and I have all sorts of programs. I would love to connect and just hear your feedback on this video. So let's go and dive into the science, because I'm conscious that I want your brains to be happy too. So most of the breathing techniques, whether it's holotropic, rebirthing, and all the schools that come from these two main schools, they're all around the idea of breathing more and breathing in a connected way and increasing the pace of breathing. So you have, the school that we were referring to before with Patrick McKeown of Oxygen Advantage, and this whole idea of breathing less. And then we have the school of breathing more. Today, we're going to be focusing on breathing more and what's happening when we go into this proper state of consciousness, I call them, when we can start to breathe, superventilate. So basically, all those modalities are around the same idea of connecting the inhale and the exhale, connecting the exhale and the inhale. So there is no pause at no point. And we tend to breathe higher. So it's a full breath, and there is a relaxation on the exhale. So that's a general term. And then schools will tell you the nose, schools will tell you the mouth. Then there will be, some will say you need to overbreathe, others will say just be present with the breath. But overall, we are breathing more than the normal breath that you would breathe. So what's happening when we do that? So when we inhale, we get a mix of gas in, but basically we inhale in order to get nitric oxide and oxygen. We also get CO2 that comes into our body. And then there is a magic that happens inside the body. We'll speak to that in a second. And then gas comes out, and it's often considered a waste gas, which is CO2. Yeah. So you have an educated crowd here listening, so you might already know most of that. But what's happening is when let's understand the role of CO2, because CO2 is really not loved gas in the system. But the way I like to explain it is you're getting oxygen that comes through your mouth or through your nose, goes into the trachea, the bronchus, and then goes into these little sacs, this alveoli, into your lungs. But from there, that's not good enough. The oxygen needs to move throughout the body. So imagine this is an alveoli, and inside is the molecule of oxygen, and then through capillarity, the oxygen is going through the alveoli, and the alveoli is surrounded with nerves and arteries and veins, and this is the way the oxygen goes into the bloodstream and joins the hemoglobin and moves around the body. But it's not able to get off from the bloodstream unless there is some kind of a guard at different points that says, hey, get off here. That's CO2. So CO2 binds the oxygen to the hemoglobin, grabs the molecule of oxygen, and puts it into the brain, puts it into the organs. So basically, the more CO2 we have in our body, the better oxygenated the body is. And that's the whole theory behind CO2 tolerance, maintaining and trying to keep as much CO2 possible in the body in order to get a well-oxygenated body. So with all that, if we breathe a lot, what we do, we consciously release a lot of CO2. So what it means is all of a sudden, well, there is less oxygen that gets distributed in the body. So the level of oxygen is the same, but it's the distribution that is not happening the same. Also, we have, because we do that often through the mouth, we have less nitric oxide, so we have a bit of vasoconstriction happening in the veins and arteries and nerves, and all of a sudden, this is why people will feel tingling sensations in the hands. This is why people will get lightheaded and dizzy. And that's why it's important to mention at this point that these practices needs to be done laying down on a yoga mat or sitting in a safe environment, because you can literally pass out. And if you pass out on a yoga mat, that's okay. You're going to wake up and you'll be fine. But if you're driving or swimming, that's not a great idea. I also don't recommend to practice breathwork in bed, because breathwork can release stuck emotions, and you don't want to feel anger and grief in a place where later on you're going to sleep or make love. So I like to keep the bed as a sacred place, and everything else, work, breath work, anything else is not happening. It's not happening in the bed. It's happening on a yoga mat. Yeah, that's protecting your sleep as well. So we are getting rid of a lot of CO2. Means all of a sudden we get all this lack of oxygen lack of distributed in the body. You know that the brain this uses 25% of oxygen in the body. So the body goes into autopilot and auto-save pilot. And all of a sudden, he's going to decide who gets the oxygen. We just don't have enough oxygen for the whole body. The oldest part of the brain, the central part of the brain, the limbic brain, the brain stems, olfactory system, they need to function for us to stay alive. So those won't be affected. But there is a part of the brain that is a bit useless, and it's whole front real estate. What happens there? This is where we think about what we're going to do for dinner tonight, or what happened with our mothers 30 years ago. This part, we can live without it for a few minutes, and the brain will all of a sudden not bring oxygen to that part. Another part at the prefrontal cortex is the part called the inhibition center. That's where we develop consciousness of how we are being perceived by others. This part shut down. And now all of a sudden, you've got the scientific explanation why people cry or laugh or give themselves permission to have orgasm in the middle of a room filled with strangers, something that feels completely impossible if I were to ask you to do that right now. But breathwork gets you in a state where all of a sudden you're no longer thinking about the future, nothing in the past. That brings you into presence. That's, the graal of mindfulness. That's why I love calling breathwork forced mindfulness. I find meditation really hard, find breathwork very easy. You have to do something. And I love doing something. It's very hard to do nothing. So breathwork forces me to just do something, and all of a sudden I get to that state where I'm fully present, I'm fully in my body, and I don't care about what's happening around me. Yeah, and that's an incredible state, and that's one of the reasons people love breath work so much, is just bring them that sense of calmness. It says, oh my God, I don't have the anxiety about the future, I'm not anxious about what happened in my past. So that's very much amazing for anyone who's struggling with some kind of you know mental focus issue. So that's one of the things that happen when we connect the breath. Of course, there is so much more around changing the pH level in our blood. We're also over breathing, the same kind of breathing we do when we're having we're in a dangerous environment. If there is, I'm in Paris, so I'm not going to have a snake like I would do in Bali, but I can have a cockroach. That's pretty much all that is still alive in Paris these days. So maybe there is a cockroach, and if I don't like cockroach, I'm going to start to have, an activation of my breath that's going to release adrenaline from the adrenal gland. And it's the adrenal gland throughout that's going to flood through my body, and the adrenaline throughout my body, sorry, that's going to get my muscles going so I can run faster away from this bloody cockroach. I'm going to have all the strength to fight it, and I have the focus on it. So basically, that's why we overbreathe to activate all of a sudden the autonomic nervous system that can keep us alive facing any kind of danger. But when we're doing breath work, we're doing exactly the same or close to that kind of hyperventilation. I call it superventilation because we stay in control of it the whole time. We could stop it, unlike hyperventilating, that is not something that we control. And in that state, we get a release of adrenaline in our system. And but we don't have a trigger. So it's kind of an incredible boost of our, autoimmune system that gets activated just on demand. And there have been studies where people have been fighting viruses, bacteria injected into their bloodstream just by doing this breathing prior to being injected. And it's pretty cool. I'll put the links to the studies in the show notes. So that's one of the things that can happen when we are breathing in this way. Now, I have developed my own breathing technique, and we all do. So I would say we don't even coffee or milk, but we all create a little cappuccino. So my cappuccino includes breath holds. I love breath holds in breath work. It lets me guide you through the breathing cold technique, which is connected breathing. And it can be for 10, 15 minutes in the context of a weekly breathwork session. But I also do it for 2 minutes in the context of a daily morning practice. So I love my breathing approach because I use it as a daily practice and I can use it as a weekly practice when I want to go through the emotional body. So that's connected breathing. There is something there about allowing the energy to flow again in the body. If there is no more restriction, like, normally there is a natural pause after the exhale when we breathe normally. But the connected breathing allow that energy to flow, that prana. And what happens is all our life we've been suppressing because it's not appropriate to laugh in public. It's not appropriate to tell our parents what we really think, etc., etc. I'm not going to go there. You know how much you've been repressing and suppressing. And if not, well, maybe you can question why you love running and what are you running from? And whatever it is that you do, how it is your habits and your behaviors are just manifestations of you developing some coping mechanisms of what it is that you've not been wanting to really face. That's what our habits are. They are just manifestations. They are just symptoms of whatever has been not resolved consciously. Unconsciously, we process it. So when we are going into this connected breathing, the energy starts to flow and the emotion that have been stored underneath muscular tensions get to be released. And it's quite fantastic to witness. You've all been there, otherwise you would probably not listening to this webinar, where people out of nowhere all of a sudden start to release anger and laugh and feel joy and all sorts of emotions that come to the surface. Well, this is the part that is a little bit woo-woo, but excuse my French, I'm from Bali. We have those moments where we give ourselves permission to address and to feel what has been sometimes suppressed or repressed throughout a lifetime. And it just comes in a messy way. And most of the time, we don't even understand, and there is no memory associated with it. But the body knows, and it's been storing repressed and repressed emotions from past generations or past lives, if you believe in that. And that's all there. And that's why you have lower back pain. And that's why your hips are not okay. And maybe that's why you always twist your right ankle. And all of a sudden, instead of, going to the chiropractor and looking for external support, you actually have the space to go within and explore, what it is that I'm not being addressing. At that point, I'd love to mention the principle that something that I say every morning when I wake up, and it's, hello, my love. And the way I would address a lover next to me that I really want to care for, I address to myself, hello, my love. How are you doing? And I really take these moments, and that can be through a walk, and be through conscious movement or dancing, to just go there and says, hey, what's going on? What do you want to tell me today? And it's incredible. The more you develop this practice, the more you get able to truly listen to the soft and mild sensation. And that might be, oh, there is a spasm in my right leg, or all of a sudden I can't really hear well. And the more you're going to be with those subtle bodies, the more you'll be able to listen to what the real messages are. And yeah, it will change your life, nothing less than that. You will live in your body instead of living outside your body. And I think that's what breathwork is, really. Back to what I was sharing. We do connected breathing. And then we do their first breath holds. Breath holds look like that. So it's a relax exhale. In that moment, I've been breathing for sometimes 2, 3 minutes in a connected way, and I've lowered my CO2. The CO2 is the gas that triggers the urge to breathe. Why we breathe? We don't breathe to oxygenate the body. That's often a mistake that is shared. We breathe to release CO2. So at that point, my CO2 is very low. What it means is I'll be able to hold my breath for a long time. If I were to ask you to hold your breath right now, you can do the test at home. You would probably hold your breath for maybe 30, 45 seconds, unless you're trained. But if I were to ask you to connect your breath for just 10 breaths and then hold your breath, you would double that time. Try it at home. It's quite fantastic. And all of a sudden, I'm holding my breath for a minute and a half, for 2 minutes. And that's an incredible pause. That's a moment where nothing happens, not even the breath. Most of the transformational moments happen there. And that's something really uncanny. We get to all of a sudden not be busy even with the breathing. We just pause. We don't feel we need to breathe anymore. And at one point, you will experience not wanting to breathe again. And in that state, time stops. And you find yourself accessing the realm of the supernatural, the magic. And yeah, things come, just things come. And again, that could be in a form of uncontrolled laughter, and orgasm, tears. And again, I really invite people to not really look for meaning, because it's the moment you're trying to attach it to a memory, you might lose the sensations, you might lose the feelings, you might lose the emotions. So staying with being present with just allowing things to come to the surface without trying to make sense is one of the secrets. And most people, they lose it because they want to understand. And so here we go. We do that. Also, there is something about not breathing. And maybe you've experienced it if, let's say, you're at a funeral and you want to laugh and you try to suppress that laughter because it's not appropriate. And you hold it and you hold it and you hold it and you hold it, and then it explodes. It's the same, if you're holding your breath, you're kind of suppressing, but consciously this time. And that makes the emotion grow bigger and it explodes. And I found that a lot of people that struggle to release emotions during the connected breathing cycles get to access it during the breath holds. Another little add-on to the breathing cold method is the shoot, where through the nose after the first breath hold, we do a second breath hold after a shoot. So it looks like that. First breath hold, and then I complete the exhale, and then through the nose I shoot. So shooting means I really move energy up in my body. How I do that? By squeezing all my bandhas, all my points of tension. So my um, perineum, my abs, my lower back, my butt, my fists. I roll the tongue at the roof of my mouth. My eyes go up. I really visualize energy moving up, cerebrospinal fluid moving all the way to the pineal gland. And then I hold my breath at the top, releasing all the tension. Just no tension, but I hold the breath at the top. That's often what could be called a DMT or third eye activation. And often people will have, of course, purple colors appear and get literally high on their own supply. So that's what we do in this breathing cold approach. And we finish with a 2 minutes relaxed state between rounds. So I also do mini shavasanas, which I also recommend to do through yoga or workout to have moments of integration included in the workout, included in the yoga practice, included in breath work. And those are really micro moments of integration. And then we get a second wave. So having moments to do that through just no music. I don't put music. There is no stimulation anymore. It's just space. And I do believe that's pretty much what breath work is all about. It's about creating space. And it is important to honor that. And I honor that throughout the breathing sequences. And of course, with a very long space at the end of the session. So I've said that in my approach, the most important was happens before and after. So let's say a few words on that before I open for Q&A. So the secret for me to a successful breathwork session lies in one word: safety. As long as the person will arrive and feel safe, transformation will happen. Why? Because we are guarded. We don't trust, we protect ourselves, we tell ourselves stories, and that's just our coping mechanism because of the life experiences we had with other teachers, with other participants, and other. It's just a world we live in where it's hard for us to feel safe. So my whole beginning, the full hour and a half before we start, is only focused on that. And it's through authentic relating, conscious movement, jokes, sharing knowledge, connecting with, and people being able to express themselves, tons of micro little moments that aggregated together at the end of the hour and a half, the person says, you know what? I'm ready. I can do this. I can trust this container. I can trust these people. I can trust this man. Let's do it. And then I don't have, then it doesn't really matter what music I use. It doesn't really matter what I say. It's not about that anymore. It's just about the space that we've created. And I find that in breath work, people are very much attached to the ingredients. Oh, you need to learn to be a DJ and write music and write vibration and the mattress and this and that. Yes, those are amazing and they are really useful. But if you create a sense of safety and people a sense of readiness, then whatever you're going to do, whatever is going to happen, whatever trigger will happen in the room with others, it will be incredible. And as often what people experience in my sessions is the sense of connectedness and community and tribe. It says, oh my God, something happened to me thanks to the connection that I was feeling with the group, or thanks to the trigger that I experienced in the group, whatever could have happened. The second element is the integration. And I love that part. In my experience, breathwork is used as some kind of a de-armoring moment. We release the tensions, we soften, but for many people, it's not enough. And during the sharing, there are strong guidelines that create safety for everyone in the container, and people start sharing. And my experience is we all have lived a different version of the same story. And we are all born, we all have trauma of birth, we all, connected to the same stories. And now more than ever, we are all reading the same books and we are all influenced by the same people. So it's not unusual that we share some similar patterns and traumas. And I witnessed that over and over, this concept of oneness. Whenever someone shares something, I can see how it's impacting everybody. And when I open with respect and authorization for the rest of the container to share impact, then people share stories they have never shared before with anyone, that they thought they would die with their secrets. And for the first time in their life, they feel they can open up. And you know what? They tell me the next day that the pain in the knee is gone, that they don't feel the same relation to an autoimmune disease or whatever has been holding them back in so many aspects. So the sense of liberation that comes with truth, honesty, and openness is what it comes down to. And I find that in my experience, most breathwork trainings and most breathwork sessions, they miss out because of the lack of integration, of the lack of knowledge on how to literally hold the container. And for me, it's not about fixing. It's not about saying something smart. It's not being the hero in the room. It's just by allowing strangers hold space for other strangers. It's about togetherness. It's about witnessing each other. And it's way more powerful than being recognized. And there is so much about the facilitator wanting to be seen and to be acknowledged. But when it's about the humans connecting with other humans, and we are just there as compassionate witness, like Gabor Mate likes to say, then we enter something that is even more special. And that's why I call my training the lost art of being human, because then breath work is just a tool. It's nothing more than that. It just gets us to the place that we just so crave to access, a place where I don't have to pretend, when I can just be myself. And I so crave to express all parts of me. And there is just no space in our society for that, because we don't learn how to listen. We don't learn how to be present for each other. We just want to fix. We just want to solve. We just want to punish. We just want to judge. And how could we do better with what we watch on Netflix and what we receive on our newsfeed, which is just about pointing fingers, about, oh, look at this horrible person, what they have done. Let's all agree that this person is bad, amazing, thank you. And we are all supporting that and all looking for the next person to blame, because it's so much easier to define what's good and what's bad. And we just don't realize that the more we do that with the outside world, the more, of course, we apply the same principles to ourselves. And that's where shame, guilt, and fear become the elements that rule our lives. And we're stuck repressing and suppressing parts of us because, yes, lying is bad, telling the truth is good, being generous is good, and being stingy is bad. So I'm just not going to give all parts of me to you, because I want you to love me. I want you to accept me the same way I wanted to receive love from my parents and my caretakers. And I didn't get it unless I was behaving the way I was expected to behave. And all of a sudden, we realize all our life, all we've experienced is conditional love. And all we've been craving is unconditional love. Well, we don't even know what it is. And we don't even do that with our lovers and with our partners. And we don't even know that we're not doing it. And we lie to ourselves when we love our children, thinking that we love them unconditionally. But that's rarely the case. We all have agendas, and it's about not having assumptions, about checking our assumptions, it's about living a life that is not a lie anymore. And it hurts a lot, but it liberates at the same time. I do believe this is how we heal the physical body. I do believe this is how we deal with cancer, with autoimmune disease, with diabetes, with any kind of physical pain. But that's the realm of magic that I was referring to. That's the part that is a bit harder to receive for people, because it's way easier to consider each body part independently from each other and disregard the fascia and the traumas. And because we just live in a society that doesn't make any space for that. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents of the magic of breathwork, my friends. And now I will open up for questions. I will just keep myself in the highlight just in case you don't want to be appearing in the recording, but feel free to unmute and ask or react in any way you want. Thank you.
Micah.
Okay, Valentina, I will answer to Valentina, then Claire, you can prepare your question. Valentina is asking, do you do breath holds on inhale or exhale? Is there a difference? Yes, I do both. I do inhale. So there is 2 breath holds, on the exhale first, and then on the inhale. We are playing either with the CO2 level or the oxygen level, whether we are breathing on the inhale, doing a breath hold on the inhale or on the exhale. I don't want to be more technical than that. I'll happily, if you send me a message, I'll tell you a bit more. I have an 11, it's a good moment for my plugin. I have an 11-week online course I highly recommend if you're interested into the breath, where you'll get 4 years of my work, and it's $185. And if someone wants to attend and cannot afford, I have discount codes up to 100%, so everyone can access it regardless of your means. Go ahead, Claire.
Thanks so much, Alex. Just on my understanding of when you were talking about this part here, about when you were explaining about the oxygen, I think, if I'm correct. But just about that release in emotion, how is that? Can you just re-explain that for me again? So why the emotion is released, and it was to do with not having this part all over the place?
So in my so first understand that there is very little scientific studies on that. So there's a lot of assumptions there and beliefs. So I'll share what I know and what I have understood. What I've understood is that um, emotions that cannot be released and expressed. And it's often like animals would do in nature. You know, an animal that is being stuck in fear, then he shakes. So if we don't have the ability to shake and release and make sounds, because it was not okay, it was not appropriate, or there was no space for it, or we didn't know how to do it, then the energy has to go somewhere. So if it's not through releasing the legs, and that's why unconsciously you do that through running, and if it's not through the voice or crying, then that's the energy needs to go somewhere and it goes inside and it gets stuck. And that's what muscular tensions are for. Muscular tensions, in my beliefs, are protection for repressed and suppressed emotions. Yeah. So that's where all of a sudden we have all those manifestation of pain in the body. And if they are not being addressed at that stage, then they become deeper. They're called disease. And of course, if you go to literally the opposite of disease would be ease. So bringing ease back in the body is the antidote to disease. So that's for the first aspect of release. And when we are breathing in a connected way, in my understanding, then all of a sudden the energy flows and get to let space for the fascias to relax, to slide again, and those muscular tensions to ease, and for the tensions to be released. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is that there is a central part of the brain, which is the inhibition center, and not providing oxygen to the inhibition center in the prefrontal cortex is the part that I don't give a fuck about what people think about me anymore. And when that's not oxygenated, then all of a sudden, all your filters, all your armors that says it's not okay, they don't operate anymore. And that's my understanding why people scream, cry, laugh, have some kind of release in connected breathing, because all of a sudden instead of, oh my God, it's not okay, I'm going to cry, but later on when I'm in my room, not right now, it's not okay, da, 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 da. It's, all these filters don't operate, and then we give ourselves permission. That hence the importance of safety prior to breath work, and then the forced aspect of it by just breathing in a connected way.
Thank you. Perfect.
Hannah, go ahead. Thank you, Claire.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alex. Thank you for beautifully explaining all the concepts and making brain happy. And my question is that when we have this spinal pain like back pain or neck pain or cervical pain, what kind of breath can help in that?
Describe a bit more the pain, what's going on exactly?
I feel that when the excess responsibilities are there in your course or something which is coming up which you don't like, those responsibility, you will get the shoulder pain or a back pain or a cervical pain like that. So how this breath can help, like what kind of breath can help?
Okay, so here is my answer. Um, you might not like it, but I find that we are too attached in our society to finding a cure to the symptoms. And very often I have people coming to me and say, "Hey, I have breathing dysfunction. Teach me how to breathe better. Or I cannot sleep at night. Give me a breathing technique so I can sleep better. But it's for me, it's you are trying to get rid of a symptom. And it's important to acknowledge the power of the symptom and inquire the symptom before you cure it. So yes, I can teach you how to breathe to release tensions in the neck, and I can tell you all about the reasons for the tensions in the neck. But the point is, if you are able to go to the root cause, then the pain will disappear by itself. And that's looking for a cure. And that's where the breath is a symptom and it's also a cure. So, of course, you mentioned it even yourself, the tensions in the neck, in the shoulders, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's, okay, what it is that you're carrying that I did not use, what kind of burden you're carrying, what kind of pressure you put on yourself. Because very often we are very happy to stay in the role of victim. So one of my tips, guys, is stop being a victim and take full self-responsibility for everything. Yeah, so it's very easy to say, well, I don't have a choice. I have children, I have clients, I have all these people expectations from me. Maybe you're happy with that story. Yeah, so just reflect on what kind of pressure you put on yourself or you've received as an ordeal from your father who passed away 20 years ago that you're still carrying, no matter how old you are and how old your parents were. So what it is that you don't want to let go, what it is that you are stubborn about, that you have a belief and you're staying it. What kind of anger you're repressing, what kind of truth you're not expressing, because this is almost the same belts of tension. You have the mouth is very near, and tensions are not just in one location. So if you have not expressed your truth, if you're not speaking your truth, it's going to affect those belts of tension. You know, here I'm referring to the work of Wilhelm Reich and Alexander Lowen. So it's 50 years old, but we still haven't moved much from it, and we're still not teaching this to our kids. So the point is to really sit with it, be with it, Hena, and try to think that any manifestation in the body is a way for the body to speak to you. And if you stop and you listen, then there will be something. And of course, I'm not the one who's going to tell you what your body wants to tell you. You know, that's the part where you just have to sit with yourself and just do some inquiry. That's why breathwork is great combination with some kind of verbal therapy. I like circling. I like community. But you can go to a psychotherapist, you can do many modalities, but there is something about being able to feel safe to share. So pay a friend called a therapist, or have some people that are educated who are not going to give you advice. But somehow, when all these tensions is, you see, those are the middle part. So what is the conflict between the head and the heart? There is some confusion, there is some inner conflict, some indecision, and that brings tension. So it's very much about inquiring what it is. So how do you get that? What is the breath for it? Just connected breathing, the breathing technique that I shared. But the truth is, I don't think one breathing school is better than another. As long as, so go and breathe, go join any kind of breath work. It doesn't matter. Go do pranayama, do any kind. Those are excuses to just be with yourself, to not be distracted with doing, but just being with it. And like something, maybe something already clicked with what I was sharing. It's gonna come and it's obvious. And it's crazy, but I've seen it. I trained 7,000 people. I've seen a lot of stuff. The moment you listen, the body will be happy, the symptoms will disappear. And it's like that. So it's not so much about, yes, breathe more through the nose and less through the mouth and adopt your posture and change this. But those, it's like if you come to a doctor and gives you Panadol because you've got a headache. Or, sure, I can give you antibiotics and the bacteria will be gone. Yes, but then there'll be something else. And it's the story of people who fight addiction by going to a detox center, and of course it doesn't work. because addiction has a purpose. And if you listen to the addiction, and all of a sudden you can understand to what is the pain, what is the need that has not been paid, what is the pain that has been suppressed through the addiction. The addiction is an answer. It's a solution. But if we don't see that, then we say, okay, you have a problem with alcohol, you have a problem with cigarette. Stop smoking, stop drinking, it's bad for you. And then people do that, and then they put on weight because it had a purpose. So if we start loving ourselves unconditionally, that kind of love that we wish to receive and we wish to give, if we can do that with ourselves, it's a game changer. All of a sudden, you will welcome everything, every thought, like a guide, and with loving kindness, you can just welcome it. It's a game changer because you're going to stop trying to change anything, try to modify anything to any kind of behavior. You will just be just like a child that has compassion for, like a mother with a child that is misbehaving, says, oh, what is going on there? I'm curious. Why are you behaving like that? And that's why triggers are teachers, and that's why when we can sit with ourselves we cannot avoid that if we want to get better, stop repeating the same behaviors, the same patterns, improving relationship. Literally, this what we're talking about. This is the best advice someone can receive when it comes to improving relationship. Forget love coaches, forget doctors. Just having that moment of truly be able to listen to yourself, you get all the answers that you've been so craving to receive. Usually validation from parents, love from parents, and things to that nature. So yes, and does that satisfy you, or you're very frustrated with me?
No, no, I completely resonated because I know that where I'm being indecisive between these two things. So that's why it is happening because where I live is like I have responsibility for mother-in-law and somebody that I don't like it actually. So, but I'm doing it, in a frustrating way. So I think that is the one, I'm being victim in that mode that I have to do all of that and etc. etc.
Uh,
So I
And
can
maybe there are
relate.
different layers here now. Maybe that's a superficial layer.
Yeah, yeah,
Maybe there is way more
yeah,
than that, Just take it, bring it back to you. But in my
sure.
training, I recommend everyone to get tattoos. And in the tattoo that I recommend everyone to get is fuck everyone. That's fuck everyone is the same as you write love everyone. There is something about, really honoring yourself. And when you honor yourself, then you can really honor others, but from a place of being grounded and sovereign, not from a place of wanting to please and anything like that. And it's tough love, but yeah, this is how we evolve as humans. Anything else, anyone? Lee Danielle send me a message. Thank you. Yeah, yeah. You have received an email maybe with it already, I think. You have everything, but I will no. Okay. All right. So
Alex, can I ask you a question?
May, go ahead.
Thank you for explaining it so very into detail, the biochemistry of the body. It's really amazing. Um, I'm interested in your view on the difference between what you explained is the circular breathing and the Wim Hof retentions. You say that everything has got to do about safety, but once we're into the connected breathing, we are triggering the fight or flight system. Once we do the breath holds, we're actually going into a freeze. So like we're in the street and the car is approaching us and we're scared and we're like holding our breath. So how does that work with safety, feeling safe to find the freedom to release those emotions? Because there is like, I'm practicing the Wim Hof training and I'm practicing the rebirthing, but the rebirthing is all about not holding your breath because you are suppressing that the body wants to express. And the Wim Hof training is like holding the breath. And it's like, what's your view about that?
Yes. Okay, so here is my clear opinion. I think the main problem is that everyone that is coming up with a method, Unfortunately, it's an ego thing, but they need to criticize the others in order for them to feel worthy. And it's just like, oh, if I criticize others, then everybody will accept that my approach is the best. And that's and you hear that a lot with people who are trained very strongly in one modality. It's very hard for them to have any kind of openness. And you have that with doctors. It's hard to
Yeah.
communicate with doctors because they are stuck. They've been conditioned for 7 years in one way of thinking. And it's the same way when we talk to holotropic or rebirthing or Wim Hof or any kind of modality that they have had results and they've been so conditioned that this is the way. Unfortunately, we get to appreciate that there is no such thing as truth. And what I really love is the variety and diversity in life and exploring modalities and seeing what I feel about it. The truth is, this morning, not going to go into that, but someone said, oh, here is a video about someone saying that ice bath is bad for women. And
Yes, I've seen it. Yeah.
so there is this whole thing about ice. And then people, because I'm an expert and I teach ice baths and I read all the studies, people want my opinion about it. But it's kind of the same answer. It's like, instead of looking for answers from some kind of authority that is the ultimate authority, what if you make your own experience and you come with your own conclusion? Because if you experience something and you get some result and it works for you, then who cares about what others are saying or what studies are saying? So if you are doing ice baths and it's working for you and you get some benefits from it, then amazing. But if your mind gets attached to, oh, this is an authority, here is a scientific paper, and it says that, and I'm going to believe it, then you're going to feel it. What you believe, you feel. So it's really important to appreciate the power of the mind over the body. We have neurotransmitters going both ways, and we're very much influenced by our own brains. So we have to be really mindful of what we choose to receive as truth, because this is what we're going to experience in our body. That's the power also of manifestation, visualization, affirmations. Poor people stay poor, rich people stay rich, and all these kind of things. It's such a story. And how often do you read a study and 20 years later there is a new study that proved that the first study was wrong? And now we have a new beliefs based on the new study. So my answer, Miranda, is to let go of the so-called gurus and just have your own experience. I love CO2 tolerance. I love improving my breath. And then I love having moments where I fully release in the breath. And I love my breath holds. And fuck everyone. This is what I like. And I don't need to be validated by some kind of authority to feel what is good for me, what feels right in my body. And I apply that and I make it my sovereign right to choose for me, but I don't have an approach where I tell others what they should believe. I'm not saying, hey guys, this is my belief and here is the study, so believe like me. No, my whole approach is about creating space. And when I facilitate, I'm very neutral and I apply to myself what I tell others. So people sometimes forget even that there is someone in charge here, because we are very much co-creating, and this is what I believe humans should operate. And unfortunately, there is too much on of hidden agenda. Wim Hof is a huge marketing scheme. It's a huge money machine, and it's covered into goodwill and good energy, but it's not true. It's just manipulation for people to buy. And you can see in the marketing how unethical it is in their approach. And I'm sorry for insulting a fellow Dutchman, but there is big money involved, and people just are lost in that. And and unfortunately, they have to put down others in order for them to feel better and to sell their own product. But I love I love rebirthing. I practice rebirthing. I do rebirthing in water with some of my students, and I studied with Wim Hof. I went to Poland and I trained with him, and I adore the man. I don't like the organization, but I like the guy. So that's it. And I'm sharing that without wanting you to have an opinion about it.
I agree completely. But what I'm interested in is how the biochemistry is working with the retentions in order to feel safety.
Yeah, so for me, safety comes with there's some key principles to safety. Titration. I practice, I try, I see the result. So if I do a breath hold, I'm going to do a 30 seconds breath hold and I see how I feel. Then I'm going to do a 1 minute breath hold and I see how I feel. So I go progressively. Same with the ice bath. You've heard that word. So when and then I make sure that I've a safe environment, that I have not eaten, that I'm hydrated, then I'm not going to hurt myself, that I went to the toilet. You know what? Going to the toilet prior to breath work is probably the most important thing when it comes to safety. How many people get up in the middle of the night and hurt themselves on the bedside table because they're not in a proper state of consciousness? The same way you get up in the middle of a breath hold or a breath work, you can hurt yourself. So safety comes with really things that are outside the breath itself. And then register how was the experience. Yeah. So when we are doing breath, connected breathing and breath holds, we are playing with chemistry in the body, but not so much with oxygen. Oxygen, unless you hold your breath more than a minute and a half, the oxygen saturation remains the same. I encourage all of you to do breath work a few times with an oximeter and to actually measure the oxygen saturation. It's not changing if you hold your breath. It's changing after a minute and a half, and it's changing from 98 to 97. It's gonna drop, but after a minute and a half breath hold. Then it's gonna drop very fast, and you can go up to almost 50%. I had 50% oxygen saturation. So I can go very low in my oxygen saturation. I encourage you to check. There was a study from a guy called Peter Ratcliffe in 2018 who got the Nobel Prize of Medicine, showing the connection between long breath holds, depriving the body of oxygen consciously, and uh, what's the word when you are fasting for a long time? Um, Help me, people. When you're fasting,
Autophagy?
autophagy,
No.
activating autophagy when you are doing long breath holds. So now we have something that could have an impact on cancer cells. And also
Yeah.
very much in the same way, there are now clear studies on food fasting and cancer. And if someone says he has cancer, I tell you the cure for cancer: don't eat for 60 days, and you get a lot of amazing results. But we are lazy. If I tell people don't eat for 60 days, they can barely skip one meal. So how do you not eat for 60 days? Well, the answer is you need to train. That's why we do breath work and breath holds every day. So now I can hold my breath for 6 minutes. But you don't start holding your breath for 6 minutes. You just practice. And like everything else, why you are good at being whatever you're doing and you think, well, I'm good at it, because you practiced it a few times, sometimes a few hundred times. And that's exactly the same for everything in life. And breath holds are exactly the same, and facilitation or whatever it is. So, yeah, I'm not sure I'm completely satisfying you with my answer, but I can see that. But that's all I know.
Okay, thank you, Alex.
The truth is, I now don't measure anything because people are attached to measures and explanations. So the reason I speak to that and I say I don't know, because I don't care anymore. The truth is, I don't care about the science of things so much anymore. I'm way more interested in what's happening in another realm when we are just feeling and connecting. And I don't measure my steps. I don't measure what I eat. I let go of all that to live life. I will tell you the key marker to health is called joy. And
Yeah.
cultivating and seeking joy is the most important practice you can do for your health. It's more important than sleep. It's more important than diet. It's more important than anything else you do. Also, having a joy practice is the number one health thing you can do. And yeah. All right, friends. I think we passed the time. Uh, I would like us to just receive 3 breaths. I'm going to stop the recording. I'm going to stay present if people want to keep asking questions. Let's receive 3 breaths. And reminding you guys, breathingcoldbali.com. Reach out if you want to study with me. I have a ton to offer. Let's receive 3 breaths. Inhale. And to the
Ah.
end. And one last time. And let it go.